Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We went to movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained best pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the favorite bit by bit. Sweetie and Sweetie are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast. Hey.
There's one more thing. A terrible presence is in there with her. So much rage, so much betrayal. I've never sensed anything like it. I don't know what hovers over this house, but it was strong enough to punch a hole into this world and take your dog away from you. It keeps Carol Ann very close to it and away from the spectral light. It lies to her. It says things only a child can understand. It has been using her to restrain the others. To her, it simply is another child. To us, it is the beast. Now let's go get your daughter.
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Sent Us podcast, your favorite podcast where two sweetie sisters talk about their favorite flicks from childhood. I'm Sweetie.
And I'm Sweetie.
And today we're covering one of my very favorite films of all time, I would say. Wow. I just love it. I love it. And I don't care who knows. It is 1982's Poltergeist.
Poltergeist. You said that weird.
Poltergeist.
You said Poltergeist. No, Poltergeist.
Poltergeist.
It's not, there's some
Poltergeist.
CH or something in there.
Poltergeist.
No, that's wrong.
I
See what I'm talking about?
I can say it how I want.
Poltergeist.
Yeah, you're
from the German
you're
for
a poltergeist.
crazy ghost or something.
Okay.
Something like that.
All right, fine, whatever. Anyways, I love this movie. It was for sure one of the first scary movies I ever saw.
True.
And I just feel like either it was always on TV or Dad was watching it and we would watch
I think
it.
it was the big TV ones. I mean, it had to have been in the early 90s, right? Like, we wouldn't have seen it anytime in the 80s, I feel like, because we just were too young. But
True.
Again, I think, like, the UPN network, I swear to God, it showed this movie all the time.
What if it was a different network?
No, I'm pretty sure. We were, like, on the UPN. I mean, not like, we weren't, like, on the station.
And now the sweeties.
But I just, like, we remember that, like, little TV I had in my room that was, like, in the kitchen at one point with
black
the
and
turny
it was
dial.
black and white and had 3 channels. I don't think it was on
and
that.
one was UPN.
No, we watched it like in the family room.
Okay.
With the peeps. I remember I would do the thing.
The peeps?
The family. I would do the thing where I would pretend to be playing with my toys. Yeah. So I wouldn't be watching the really scary parts, but then I would still be engrossed, which is kind of how my fascination with horror kind of started, in that I was terrified but still so eager and intrigued to see the movies.
Yeah. This was definitely my first horror movie too, I would say.
I don't know if it was my first. I think my first one was Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh, true.
But this
Okay.
one was the first one that I remember having a specific attachment to.
Yep. And then mine got Eclipse, and then it became got Eclipse, and it became The Exorcist as my next one. So I didn't watch this one as much, but still would trot it out at slumber parties to, like, scare the shit out of my friends, which it totally did, specifically the face peeling off part. But we'll get to that.
So fucked up.
But yeah, so amazing. From 1982, produced but not directed by Steven Spielberg.
That's right.
Something that you should remember.
You should.
I think the director's name is Tobe Hooper.
Also the director of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's why his name rings a bell.
Mm-hmm.
And starring very attractive, to me at least, Craig T. Nelson. Coach, if you will.
Also very attractive.
Jo-Beth Williams. Hot.
Hot
as
hot
fuck.
bod. Yeah, love her. And then Heather
cute little-
O'Rourke
kids.
as Carol Ann, Dominique Dunn as the older sister, and that other kid whose
Robbie.
name I forget.
No last name.
Robbie. But yeah, super awesome flick. Obviously a classic ghost story, but like with a little twist. Also Zelda Rubinstein
Yes.
is in this, who is also in Teen Witch. So we love it. Love her. Yeah, that's the cast. Should we just start the synop or okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's time for the sweetie synopsis. Yeah.
Sweeties.
They're
here. I don't know why I don't wait for you to do something silly right before every time. But anyways, Diane and Stephen Freeling live in Cuesta Verde, a development of houses that all look the same somewhere in California.
You know what Cuesta Verde means? I looked it up.
Green comfort
Hills.
hills.
I was like, I was thinking like Cuesta, like cost. I'm like, cost of green, money, blood money. I was like, jump in with it, but it's just green hills.
Okay.
Yeah, got it.
Good theory.
Good.
Anyway, so they live in there with their 3 children, Dana, the eldest, who is 16, Robbie, who is some age, I don't know, and...
No, 7.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't paying attention during the interview process.
You've seen this movie 1,000 times.
No, I don't remember the specific ages. 7, Robbie is 7, and Carol Ann, who is 5. So they're living their lives, everything's going great, but Carol Ann starts getting a weird sort of behavioral thing happening where she talks to the TV. It's pretty weird. It's this TV's is staticky, and she talks to it and then answers it like it's asking her questions. Very creepy.
So, like, what's up with that staticky TV? Like, it just didn't have a station broadcasting to that
So
channel?
television programming did not last, like wasn't 24 hours until sometime in the 90s or something. So that's why they had that sign off, like da, na, 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 na. So that was like the end to signify the end of broadcast.
Got it.
So when that was done, it just stopped. So that's
So
why
there was nothing broadcasting to those stations.
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Got it.
So the static is there, so it's free to pick up various frequencies.
Oh, and that's why the guy says later
Yep.
what it can pick up. Okay.
Yeah. So they're kind of like, oh, that's kind of weird, but they're not super concerned about it. One day when Diana's at home with Carol Ann, some other weird things start to happen, including the chairs moving on their own and stacking themselves into intricate, like pyramid styles of top of the table, stuff moving around, freaky. She kind of learns to harness it or like see, she knows where it's happening. So she like does this whole exciting thing where she's like, if I put the
hot
chair
spots.
here, then the chair moves. And then she figures out that if you sit there, you'll move. So when Steven comes home, she shows him and he's kind of freaked out. He's like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
This is
it
weird.
seems like kind of hot spots of real, like concentrated energy at first.
Right.
And it
So-
seems really fun and they're playing with it. So it's like, oh, like, haha. I don't even know if it really dawns on her that it's like ghosty, right?
No, yeah, it's definitely a high level of intrigue and excitement. Steven's a little freaked out, I would say.
He's a little
Just like unexplained. You're not sure, it's a little questionable. So they go to the neighbors. They're like, hey, weird stuff's happening over here. How about you? Nothing over there. So they're like, great, we're stuck. We're screwed. So they're still talking about it. They go to bed, and then a big storm hits that night, and this scary tree comes through the window.
We missed the part where the thing like jumped into the wall
Oh, yeah.
from the TV.
So, and then another night, Carol Ann talks to the TV once again, but this time this like apparition hand thing comes out and then snakes through the air and then goes into the wall, and there's kind of creates like a crazy earthquake. And then the family wakes up and Carol Ann looks at them and is like, they're here. And everyone's like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
And she tells her mom later that she meant the TV people, which is the people she's been talking to through the static. Ooh, spooks. Yeah, so the giant tree comes through the window and grabs Robbie and takes him out and starts sucking him in this gigantic hole. So Steven and Diane and Dana like go out to try to get him, and Carol Ann's left in the bedroom. And then the closet opens and this mysterious light happens and some wind. And it kind of scares her. And then it starts blowing and sucking her into the closet, and she flies in.
And she's gone.
She's gone.
Disappeared.
She real gone. So the family rescues Robbie. Thank God. It was close to me. It seemed pretty close.
Well, at first when I was watching it, I was like, I thought for a second maybe they were trying to get Robbie too, because not only does a tree try to eat him, so like what if they didn't save him, but also when they get him out of the tree, remember like the root comes out of like the swimming pool or something and tries to like drag him. Oh no, it's the twister. Like the root comes out of the twister and tries to like grab him.
Yeah.
So it's like they were trying to get him, I feel like, too. I know it was like
no,
a distraction.
It was. There's nowhere for Robbie to go that would have like transported him to the
True, because it was all in the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that definitely was a distraction. So they run upstairs to go find Carol Ann. They can't find her. They search the house frantically looking for her. No good. They look in the swimming pool, even though I'm like, oh, hello, you would have seen her come out and like jump in there. Yeah.
She's also not an idiot.
She's
She might be
5,
five.
but she's
but
smart.
She's smart.
Yeah. So then Robbie starts freaking out. So they go in there, and Diane's like, what is it? And then you just hear Carol Ann's little voice over the TV that's saying, Mommy, where are you, Mommy? I can't see you. And it's like, whoa, fucked up. So cut to some amount of time. Not sure. I think it's a couple weeks, because Teague later says that she missed quite a few days at school.
Yeah, but he was going to miss weeks of work for the flu. Maybe like a week.
Like a week.
Yeah.
So they go to find help at a paranormal place, paranormal experts.
Similar to in Ghostbusters, part of a college.
Mm-hmm.
They go there and there's like a paranormal research department.
Yeah. it was
Which isn't
definitely
like accredited kind of
day.
thing.
It may have been
Science.
like a thing in the 80s.
Well,
but
Dr. Lesh said, remember, she's like, oh, I'm a trained psychologist, but like I don't get any credit for like this type of work.
Right.
It's not like an actual
Yeah,
science.
it's fringe science.
Yeah.
So they like kind of interview him, and then they go to the house with the camera, and they bring Dr. Lesh is the main lady who brings like 2 other experts in the field, I guess. And they bring their camera, they bring all their fancy Ghostbuster equipment, kind of, if you will. And they are kind of blown away by this, because while they've been studying ghosts professionally, quote unquote, they've never seen anything quite like this. Up until this point, the biggest ghost experience they've had is when the guy filmed a little Matchbox toy car rolling across the floor, which took 7 hours to do.
That's a great.
So, so then
He's
they
like,
see
it was
this.
amazing.
Yeah, it's the best. And then there's like all these crazy things are like sliding all over the place in front of them, lights blinking on
Like
and off.
toys
all
are-
the toys in
yeah.
the room are flying around
And are like alive.
Yeah,
Like
and, like,
horses are
laughing.
laughing, or like stuff is laughing. Like
Yeah.
it's
crazy,
cray.
crazy. So then obviously they're kind of observing everything. Some stuff happens at night. We'll get into it. And then the cameras pick up this mysterious light, and then they play the tape back, and they see all these forms of like lost souls kind of walking around like confused. So Dr. Lesh is like, all right, I need to bring in like the big guns here. I need to bring in this like this clairvoyant who's extremely
Big guns, little body.
sensitive. Yeah, so we'll bring her in and see what she says. So they bring in this woman named Tangina.
Tangina?
Well, that's what I always struggle. I always have to like pause before I say
Is
it.
her name said at all aloud?
Yeah, yes,
Oh,
but
okay.
very like softly. But and it's Tangina, I think. I always want to say Tangina because it's funny. Because it's like vagina, but it's not. So she comes and she explains to them, okay, look, listen. Carol Ann is alive in this house, but she is helping or trying to help these souls that are lost. They can't pass over because they're distracted by Carol Ann's life force because it's very strong and so different from theirs. And they're all like, oh, good, we can just go in and get her then. But then Tangina's like, hold on your butts. There's also a really bad spirit in there with her who is like holding her and keeping her away from all these spirits. And he's terrifying, and he's basically a beast.
Right. So this is what I've come up with that happened on this rewatch, because it's a little confusing to me still, like what the fuck happened, right? So the evil thing, which is called the beast, don't confuse it with the Sandlot beast, which is like a giant dog. This is like a very evil spirit. Non-human, let's say it's probably like the evil of many humans combined even. Like, I don't think it's just like one nasty serial killer. I think it's like just evil in general, right? Mm-hmm. Punched a hole into the world of that as we know it, and like took Carol Ann so he could be able to control those spirits who were having trouble crossing over, right? Because the beast doesn't want those spirits to cross over. He wants them to stay there and be angry just like him, I think, and like add to his beast and collection.
Like feed to his energy or whatever.
Yes, because that's what I never like really got in this movie. Like, if it was the good spirits who like liked her around and liked her light and everything, why did they choose to take her? You know, it like didn't seem like something, and like that they would have enough energy to do that. Mm-hmm. But it was the beast all along.
Right. Yep. So they devise a plan to go and get her. So they call Carol Ann, and Tangina says that the entry to this other spectral world is in Carol Ann's closet, which is where she disappeared. Good theory. It's right. Mm-hmm. So they throw a rope in there, and then Diane calls out to her and is like, "Run to the light, baby. Don't stop. Like, go to the light."
And the light being like, I guess, where you're crossing
over. Yeah. So Diane like heads into this other world. Steven's holding the rope. And the other two are downstairs with the other end of the rope, where the other end of the rope comes out, like in the dining room table area. So Diane's in there for at least 10 seconds. And then Steven gets upset because Tangina's like, "Cross over, children." She's trying to help the spirits actually
she's
cross
in like
over.
A trance. She's not just like, "Oh, just kidding, haha, I want you to get stuck in there with like all the demons."
Yeah,
it's a
topic of sweetie confusion for me later, which we'll talk about. But Steven gets very upset, and he's like, "No, you said not to go into the light."
I feel like he like mansplains Tangina.
Totally.
I know more than you do about everything.
We'll get into it. But yeah, for sure. And so he starts pulling the rope, and Tangina's like, "No, Steven, not yet." And then this crazy giant beast head comes out and is like terrifying. He's like, "Rah!" and scares him. And he lets go of the rope, even though he told Diane that he wasn't going to let go. All these fucking men, like Jack Dawson, Titanic, like, "I won't let go." And then they fucking let go. Like, fuck off. So, yeah. But luckily, don't worry, because in that 10 seconds, Diane was able to find Carol Ann and hold on to her. She's got her. They come through the ceiling. They're fine. They're like in this disgusting red goo. It's pretty gross.
Yeah, who knew that the afterlife contained like purple jello? Who knew?
We know now. They go to the tub. They get in the tub. They like wipe them down, and they're okay.
You know what it kind of looks like? When a baby gets born, it kind of like looks like that stuff.
Like, well, Tangina says something about a membrane in the spectral plane.
Well, it's like the opposite. So if like you're born into the world, it's like maybe dying is like being born into another one. You know, it's like the transition from.
Happen. I believe it.
You know, it's like almost reverse birth.
Okay.
Just saying.
Sure. Benjamin Button.
But yes.
Yes. So all is well. Tangina's like, "This house is clean," even though it ain't, bitch. So
I wonder if after they gave Tangina a review, that like a bad Yelp review, that was like, "Fuck this bitch. She said this house was clean and it wasn't."
That'd be a funny like meme or something to do today. Like free links. Yeah. We're doing it. Okay. So I think it's only the next day they start moving the entire house. They're like, "We got to get out of here."
Ready.
So they're packing up the house. But then Steven, again, dick face, is like, I mean, I love him, but he makes a few mistakes in this. Let's just say that.
Bad judgment calls.
He's like, "Okay, I'm going to go to the office and get some papers." Even though I'm like leaving this fucking job, like, who cares about papers? He's a real estate agent. Like, what papers does he need?
They should have left that house the day they came out of the purple goo.
I know.
Like, what the fuck?
So he's like, "Okay, I'll be back early. If the kids get sleepy, put them down to bed."
In the same creepy room.
He doesn't say that, but to Diane that's what that means. Put the two kids back in the room where all this shit happened to begin with.
Sleep in the living room.
And then I'll go dye my hair and lay in a bath by myself for an hour.
They're
like,
I know that they were very like reassured that the house was clear, but like that was basically like a crime scene that happened in that house. Horrible things, memories. I know like Carolyn didn't remember, but like
Yeah, but Diane did, and it's like if you eat bad fish or something and then you get food poisoning, you ain't eating fish for like 2 years, okay? And they're just, this terrible thing happened, and we're going right back in.
Right, you're not going to an all-you-can-eat buffet at Red Lobster after like a bad sushi experience the day before.
Forget it.
No.
Ugh, anyways, so of course more bad things happen, and the beast tries again to get Carol Ann sucked back in. So this time he opens up this giant scary membrane in the closet. It looks like a vagina, a birth canal, I don't know, something.
See?
Yeah, you're right. So Diane has to save them. She pulls the kids out. Then all these coffins start exploding out of the ground, and these skeletons are coming out. Stephen comes home. He's like, what the fuck is happening? And then he yells at his boss, because his boss was like, oh, yeah, we relocate cemeteries all the time. No big deal. But then Stephen puts 2 and 2 together and is like, oh, you probably said you relocated the cemetery, but you only moved the headstones. You left those bodies where they were. So our house got built on top of these dead bodies.
Right. So, and like a couple things involved here. So, number one, house built on dead bodies. Like burial ground, sacred ground, right? Number one. Number two, they were the first house in that area as well. So, like, why is their house chosen out of all the others? Probably the reason why.
And Carol Ann was born.
And number three, Carol Ann was born in the house.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, home birth?
That's what I'm thinking.
In the tub?
She's probably born in that tub that they put her in the goo.
Maybe she was born in the closet. What? So kind of perfect storm. Like, okay, why did they choose this family? Like this, all that.
Yeah.
Right.
Bad luck. But they escape and they drive away and they stay at a hotel. And then the last scene is them wheeling the TV out. And then the credits roll. And that's the flick.
Followed up by several horrible sequels.
Yes.
And a remake in 2015.
Recently, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is it the same? Is that, you know, if the remake is like the same plot, family in a house?
I think so.
Complex, like.
I don't know. I pretended to not know it existed, so it wouldn't tarnish my memories.
Like, I just can't even with that stuff. Like, there's no reason to remake this movie at all.
Let's not talk about it. So, gosh, where to begin? I just have so many positive things to say about this movie. Number one thing that sticks out the most to me on this rewatch is how funny it is. In both intentional and unintentional ways, but I think the dark kind of humor aspect of this is very strong. Like that last scene where they roll out the TV, that's funny. Just there's a bunch of little scenes like that where just like little.
Well, you gotta give it to the Freeling family because they really do have a great attitude about this whole tragedy. They keep it light because they love each other and just love the family and are like, you know, because they have to keep together for the other kids too. Yeah. But that's what I'm like kind of really comforted by, especially in the middle part of the movie, which is like when the psycho paranormal people come and they're all kind of together in the room and there's tears and there's laughter, then there's tears, and there's laughter, they're joking.
Ooh, roller coaster of emotions.
And it does feel like, I know Steven Spielberg really wanted this to feel like a normal family that could like happen to anybody, and that's why he cast sort of all the unnamed people in this because he didn't want anyone to be like shown like this crazy star. And I feel like it really works. They do feel like very much like a family, like all American family living in California in 82. Right. And just from the start of that, right?
Yeah, totally.
Smoking pot.
I love it. And I love just all the bonds created throughout the movie. Dr. Lesh and Diane have such like a cute little friendship. And they've only known each other for about a day, but they're just so close. I love that. Even like the paranormal researchers and everyone just coming together. I just love that. The music, I think, is really great. The score is beautiful. So creepy. There's these little noises. It's not, I guess it's considered music, but you know those, like the like, like that, those noises are all over this.
Frequency, like changes or something? I don't know what you would call that. You know when you like turn on a speaker? Remember like Dad's old speaker and you'd like turn it on and be like,
yeah, it does sound, yep, it definitely sounds like that. But yeah, and then the Carol Ann theme song, which is like da-na-na, da-na-na-na-na. It's good. It's cute. But yeah, I just love it. And I love the performances, even though they're kind of exaggerated at times, or some might say overacting, but I don't think so. I think it's brilliant, and I think both Jo-Beth Williams and Craig T. Nelson do an amazing job in this. Great chemistry.
Yeah, love them.
They're just like that couple that fell in love young and just stayed in love.
Yeah.
And
you just really believe them.
Yeah.
And they had this like perfect family, but like worked so hard. You know, Steven is like this great salesman. So he's a salesman for the company, these the housing developments that get built on all the cemeteries. He doesn't know any of this, even though he's like the top salesman. So he like really worked so hard to get where they were. And they do have this beautiful house. They have a beautiful family. Everyone is so happy. And then it just all comes crumbling down.
Yes. Sometimes I say, remember when the ghosts were fun? And she was so excited about it. And then it's just like all goes to shit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they kidnapped her freaking
I
little girl. I mean,
It's insane.
Yeah. I mean, it's just such an interesting concept of that, like, someone could be, like, in the world, not dead, but, like, in the world with the dead people. In this, I mean, it's not a new concept to have this sort of, like, purgatory, what is that called? Like, limbo, right? Mm-hmm. That's not a new concept, but... And whenever like we've covered some of these ghost movies, I just like love the ideas that people come up with of like what is the afterlife, like what does it contain? And this one has always stuck out for me of all the kind of ghosty stuff now that I've watched as being one that just seems like okay, that could really be it.
So okay, yeah, right. So the explanation for why there's these ghosts in their house is that for whatever reason these souls have had like a the word she uses like a
so some people like die and then they go to the afterlife.
They die suddenly, but some people don't know that they're dead,
they're gone.
And they don't cross over because of that. So they're kind of lingering in a perpetual dream state.
And they're either they watch everyone else grow up, they get very sad, they get very angry, and then sometimes they throw stuff around. So that was like her explanation of why there was kind of like this big psychic energy and the ghosts were doing like sort of bad things. And so I feel like that was sort of like a B level like evil ghost, and then you have the beast ghost like I was talking about before, which was just like really, really angry and upset. And I think in this movie that goes to kind of what happened and why they were targeting that family because of sort of the desecration of the burial ground, right? So it's like, it felt like to me, like those ghosts were fucking angry because their shit was like, no one could come and like, you know.
Yeah, but even
though the headstones got moved and like whatever, like it was sacred burial grounds that the living like was trampling on.
Wasn't that more than 5? Like that was 5. Like why didn't this happen since they moved in?
Well, that's what I asked you. Like what was the thing? Like they don't really ever explain.
Well, some people think it's when because they start building the swimming pool, so they're like digging like doing that and that. But that happened after Carol Ann talked to the TV people. So, but maybe she was only doing 5. Well, you've been talking for a while, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's never explained.
Yeah.
And I always thought, like, watching this when I was growing up, that it was like a Native American burial ground,
right? Because
of the drums and they play.
Well, that's what I wrote down. So there's a common misconception that Poltergeist is about an Indian burial ground, and that's why these spirits happen. Where that is really nowhere in the film, and I think that confusion stems from 2 things. So I think it stems from the drums, although that may have just been like a Sweetie confusion thing,
right? Like it's okay to have drums and not maybe like
and
Native Americans.
B, the second one deals more with Native Americans, I think, because there's like a Native American character in it, and that may be why people got confused. Also, Craig T. Nelson's boss says, "What's the problem with moving headstones, moving cemeteries? It's not sacred Indian burial ground. It's just regular people." So even though he says the opposite of what it was, some people thought, this cemetery that he's talking about right now is an Indian burial ground, but maybe it was down there. Also, there's a corpse with really long gray hair,
I was thinking of,
which also looks a little Native American-ish, but they're all wearing very modern dresses and
They
clothes.
are.
One's wearing a
And
tuxedo.
if you don't know this, like your hair and your nails and everything keep growing when you're dying. That's like a thing. So you'll like,
it's really gross.
Yeah. So you could potentially have like really long hair. Yeah, but I just find that like so fascinating, and I love that part. I always have, even when I was little. It's spooky, but like really cool. In the part where the kind of it looks almost angelic, kind of spiritual thing.
It's like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, the thing that comes.
The Abyss. Have you ever seen that? Is that Steven Spielberg? I think that might be too. So there's like but it's like almost like make what you want of it, because it doesn't really look like anything, but it could look like a lot of different things. So it's almost like what you are thinking and looking at, like, maybe it looks like an angel to you, maybe it looks like an octopus, I don't know, but a spiritual octopus, and it comes down, whatever, and then there's all these like little little blinks of lights, which you don't see and get any detail until they like rewind the tape. So they go and look at the tape, and then it's randomly people with all hats on, which are like, why is everyone wearing hats on crossing over? Maybe they give everybody a hat, I don't know. But then also it looks like people like from a different generation.
Well, that's what all those debris that falls out of the thing. She says this one's over 100 years old. This one's only a couple of years old.
Right. So you can be in limbo.
Well, it's just like a cemetery. You have bodies in there that are hundreds of years old, maybe, and then one that's 5 years old.
So you could be in limbo for hundreds of years, or you could be there and you just got there. I think maybe that's what that was supposed to say. Sure. But I just like love that part. Kind of reminds me a little bit of, I don't know if you remember in Ghostbusters 2 when like the Titanic like lands.
That's my like ultimate like scary part.
And the
for
ghosts
me in that
come
movie.
in and they like kind of look like that.
Yeah,
they're like
totally.
I feel like there's nothing more creepy than like ghosts from dressed in like another generation clothing that is like kind of like an apparition.
Yeah.
And you know that they're ghosts because they're in costume from like obviously
and
not
they're
this
like
time.
confused and they're like, what's happening? Yeah, I love that
creepy.
part. Yeah, that always stuck with me. So when I was little, the three main memorable scenes for me that stuck out as a child that I will always remember, like burned into my brain, is so the first one is the face peeling scene.
Yep.
So in this scene, one of the paranormal researchers is like, I'm going to the kitchen. I'm hungry. I'm going to go make some food. So he goes into the fridge.
What he, like,
we will. Okay. He goes into the fridge.
I didn't really
he grabs a chicken drumstick, puts it in his mouth right away, and then a full steak without. It's just
and first
in
of
the
all,
fridge.
before he even does this, he like houses a bag of Doritos or something, and he's like, "I'm still hungry. Let me like go through these people's fridge."
Yeah, and then so he like puts the steak on the counter. So he's gonna cook a full steak in the middle of the night.
Brings
this
out
is
a
at
pan?
like 3 a.m, I think. It's very weird.
Like were the Freelings like, "Hey, eat," you know, when like you house sit for people or babies or something, like eat whatever you want.
This always so this is also getting into Sweetie confusion because I was pretty sure that they did not go in the kitchen at all after this thing with Carol Ann happened because of the chairs moving. And Stephen knew that was like a hotbed place. Mm-hmm. So I thought that all that food was bad and that it was already bad when he put it in his mouth. But I'm not sure. I think that the beast kind of turned it into scary things. So the steak starts moving on its own, like inching like a gross inchworm, and then the guy shines a flashlight on it and it like explodes out of the center, erupts out of
what comes out of it?
Just the meat. It's just the meat like bubbling out of the side. And then he freaks out, drops the drumstick in his mouth, and then shines a light on that, and there's maggots all over it.
Is there anything worse than maggots? I mean, honestly,
I don't think so.
Disgusting.
I don't think so. So he freaks out, runs to the bathroom, puts on the light. Actually, it's not a bathroom. It's like a weird utility sink. It's I always thought it was a bathroom, but now I was like, oh, it's just like a gross,
it's like that overly wide, like not nice sink.
Yeah. Ugh. So then he sees like this little red thing in his cheek, and he's like, what's that? And then he like pulls on it, and his face starts like coming apart. And then all this like mushy, like it looks like Jello is like dropping in the sink. It's his skin and like flesh. He starts ripping his face off because he can't stop. And then he's like half skeleton, half like mushy goo, a pool of mushy goo. And he's like, rah!
And then bottom half is like just teeth and like bloody.
And then it changes, and he's back to normal. And it was all just kind of like hallucinating.
And it does. Obviously, with the technology we have now, looks so fake. But as a kid, was like
there was nothing
scary.
Worse than that as a child to see. And it's
Terrifying.
just for me, it was like the blobs of skin in the sink and like the gross like red Jello stuff. It was so
and even the
gross.
way they do it, how it just starts with like a couple drops of blood.
Yeah, and then it's like,
and then it's just like.
Ugh. And for me, body horror is like I've watched a lot of horror movies, and nothing really gets me like cringy unless it's body horror, and that includes like peeling things off your
I was gonna say, was your
skin.
Black Swan one?
Yes, so that like everything in Black Swan pretty much, just anything with skin just really freaks me out. So that scarred me for life. Fun fact, the gentleman who peels his face off actually emailed me one time. I wrote a blog post about how to use eccentric poltergeist quotes in everyday life. And he emailed me to say he really enjoyed it and it was awesome. And so I'm really pissed off because I like accidentally deleted this when somebody, probably you, were mad at me because my email is always like 20,120 emails in your inbox, and you were like, fix that. And I was like, ugh. So the only way I could think to fix it was like checking everything off and like deleting it or something.
You search by who you want to delete, and then you delete those. So if it's like all spam, you search like, I don't know, whatever,
it wasn't
some spam
This
stuff.
was all in the inbox though.
Yeah, but you might have like bills come through there or something, so you just put in like
I don't know.
Comcast,
I don't know what
and you'll
happened.
get
I
all
just
those.
wanted it to go away. So
I will
people would
teach
stop
you
yelling
how
at
to
me.
organize.
So I accidentally deleted this email, but I'm pretty sure he gave me some like sweet inside goss about Steven Spielberg, and he was actually friends with him, and that's how he got this
Did you
role.
forward it to me? I might still have it.
Oh, maybe we should check that out. But it was very exciting for me. Anyways, so yeah, that scene, number 1. Number 2, the ghost on the camera, which you just talked about, always stuck with me. And then number 3, that one skeleton with the really long hair at the end that comes out of the coffin. Those 3 things scared the crap out of me when I was little. Definitely the things I would be like, oh, I'm playing with my Barbies. I'm not watching this right now. It's too scary.
The pillow over your face?
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
I would add to that, I think one that I've heard many times from people, the clown scene. So that was my pillow over the face one. So at what is like the second ending of this film, because so the thing happens, this house is clean, you're all like, wow, that was like a really intense moment, like let's all breathe. And then they're packing the van, and then they're like ready to go. So I wonder if you watched it in the theater, or even like the first time you ever watched it, you were like, okay, that's the end. Like not knowing kind of how long it was running.
Right.
I mean, it does feel a little bit not like the end, but I think you could kind of think, okay, this is the end of most horror movies, right?
Right. So that's what is
Like,
referred
it's
to
over.
as the 4th act in
There you
horror, which only a few movies have,
Right.
but it's quite an effective thing to do.
Right.
But Poltergeist is the main example I always think of this, where you think that the main thread is over.
Right.
So you kind of rest assured and you're like, okay, whew.
Because it's like a
That's done.
sunny day.
Right.
Everyone's in
And
a
it's
great
great.
mood.
Tangina said the house was clean,
Yeah,
so
right.
everything
You
should
feel
be
great
fine,
about it.
but it's not. So
Right.
then that thing happens. Another good example of this is in Alien, when you think that Ripley has gotten away from the alien. She's in her own little escape pod, and then you realize that the alien's been sleeping in there the whole time with her, and she freaks out, and you're like, what the fuck?
Spoiler! I've never seen it.
All right, you
I'm
want to
gonna
watch it.
Yeah. I'm intrigued by
But
Alien,
same thing. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Okay, so anyway, so the clown part. So the clown is seen in the first scenes of this movie as the first initial storm where like Robbie gets sucked into the tree. So it is the scariest fucking clown toy you have ever seen in your whole life. There is any reason that should be in a child's room ever. I don't know who bought that for them. Like, what the
my theory
F?
is that a lot of kids have these toys that somebody like your grandmother or someone buys for you, and your parents are like, oh, you have to keep this somewhere prominent because your grandmother, who's probably dead now, bought this for you, and you have to honor it. And Robbie obviously hates this clown with a passion. He like tries to cover its face up every night. He hates it so much.
Always scary.
So,
Right.
and then what did Tangina say about the beast is that he knows what
knows,
scares you.
right.
He has from the beginning.
And for Robbie, he was scared of the tree and the clown, which actually I read were two of real fears from Steven Spielberg's actual early life. So he obviously wrote them into the movie. So the clown appears. So the first part, you know it exists, but actually it doesn't do anything. It's not involved in anything scary. The second, so they're all ready to move out. There's like only even a couple toys left, and they don't pack the clown. Weird. The clown is sitting, and it's like this big clown with these like floppy arms, sketchy face, like floppy hat with like a bell on it, and it's freaky. And I think, is there another storm? Yeah, it's like another storm, right?
There's
Is it
like
lightning?
5 storms.
Yeah.
There's so many storms.
So Robbie sees it, and you know he's like, fuck this clown. I'm gonna like put a blanket over it. And he puts a blanket over it, right?
No, he tries to like he did in the beginning, but
it
it
misses.
falls off.
So he's
of it.
like, I'm gonna go to bed. It's fine. Like nothing's gonna hurt me. We're good. Goes to sleep, and then he hears something like jump to the ground. Jingle is that little bells on its hat, right? Looks up, clown is gone. Where's the clown? So he looks under one side of the bed, not there. Other side of the bed, nothing there.
Pretty agonizing.
ooh, and he like kind of, you can see him like give a sigh of relief, and then he goes up from looking under the bed, and the clown's fucking right behind him.
Oh my God.
And starts to strangle him.
Ugh, it's awful.
So then he's getting dragged under the bed.
And it has like a different expression.
Yes,
it's like in Pee-wee
evil.
when
Yes.
the clown's mouth changes to an evil mouth. It's so scary.
It's not a sketchy clown anymore. It is an
And
evil
it has
fucking
that gross,
clown.
dirty orange hair that all clown things have.
So scary. So I think that's one that kids like have always.
Reminds me of.
So many people are scared of clowns anyway, so it just feeds
Well,
that
this reminds me. I
fire.
had a toy just like that. I got this, not a clown, but somebody, I won't name any names, bought me this Daisy Duck marionette puppet for Christmas one year. And I was like, yay, thanks.
really
But
scary.
unfortunately, it was Daisy Duck, but it had human puppet hands as the hands, which is like my number one fear of all time, sort of. Maybe after sharks, but it scared the shit out of me, and I like took it home, and I was like, yay, and then I was like, ugh, and I just like threw it in the closet and never looked back. Hated it so much. So it's just, you have these things that people get you, but you can't throw them away because you feel bad about it, so they just last. So that's definitely where that comes from.
So creepy. So that's such a good one. And then my other one is the skeletons in the swimming pool. So the second part the fourth act where the ghosts all come back and they're trying to suck Carol Ann back into the closet again. Diane gets kept out of the room with like all these different methods. So, sorry. There's sparks on the door. She gets thrown down the stairs. She gets like basically like thrown out of the whole house, right? Like I forgot how she makes her way outside.
It's like ghost raped.
Yeah. All this like
weird.
horrible stuff happens to her. She only has like a shirt and underwear on. Oh, that's so sad. But so they're building a swimming pool the whole time. They're like building this swimming pool. And she gets like tossed into the swimming pool. It's just this giant muddy hole, so muddy. And there's just like a little bit of water at the end because of the rain that they keep getting. So she falls into it, and then all of a sudden these skulls and caskets start popping up because then you now realize that they had, were built the house on a cemetery. So all the caskets and stuff are still there.
And they start rising out of the ground.
And it's just skulls. And like if you read the trivia, you learn that they were actually real skeletons, and they didn't tell her that because they didn't want to like freak her out.
She would not have gone in there. She was
But,
already.
like, where are they
freaked
getting like real skeletons from? Like medical departments, people
out.
giving
I
their
thought they got them
bodies
from,
to
like,
science
Thailand or something. Yeah.
Oh.
So, but I thought so. She was actually more scared about the fact that there's all this electrical equipment around the pool, and she thought she's going to get electrocuted. So Steven Spielberg was like, "Okay, like I'm going to get in there with you, so you won't be scared. Like if you die, I die."
Yeah.
So that kind of put her at ease.
What a good. Well, he wasn't director, but what a good.
And then
God.
but then she finds out that they're real skeletons after the fact. So yeah, definitely a scary part. And then you said the scariest part of that scene is that all these skeletons come out, and then she starts like climbing her way out of the pool, but then she can't get a grip because it's all muddy and slippery, and she slides back down like she's a bowling ball into all the skeletons.
And there's like double the amount of skeletons again. They're all like, and then oh my God, I hate that part when she like makes it almost all the way up and she looks back and they're all kind of like swimming like with each other and kind of like moving. Like they're like a little bit like there's life to them.
Well, it's just like in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
Where, like the skeletons
Very
seem to
similar
scream
scene.
and like
Yes.
move.
Yeah.
It's very scary.
So scary.
But yeah, totally true. So those skeletons is what many people think that the curse of Poltergeist originates from. So they think that because they used real skeletons, that was kind of a sacrilegious act, and that a curse developed on the movie. So the curse, if you don't know, is something that took the lives of many cast members and crew members of the film in unusual or unexpected ways or whatever. So Heather O'Rourke, who was Carol Ann, died after the third movie from sepsis.
Yeah, it's some
After a bowel obstruction. Dominique Dunn was strangled by her crazy ex-boyfriend.
That's a horrible story if you've not heard it. It's awful.
And she died. And then some people in the sequels, the Native American guy, Will Sampson, died of... It's fine. And then... sorry, the cat's being crazy. You're freaking out. It's fine. He'll jump. It's fine. He'll know he did a bad thing. So a lot of tragedy. One of the guys in the very beginning of the film, one of Craig T. Nelson's buddies to come over and watch football, was murdered by a crazy axe man. That's pretty crazy. So just these things that happen. I mean, yes, it's unusual, but I think tragedies like that happen in everything, and it just so happens that
in every cast. I mean, it's just there's all these different people working
but because
on
of the
it.
nature of the movie, people like to put this spin on it.
Because
so.
didn't The Exorcist have something similar to that? But wasn't that more on-set stuff, not necessarily like after the fact?
Yeah, and there are some stories of like on-set stuff in Poltergeist, mainly in Poltergeist 2, to the point where the Native American guy actually performed an exorcism. He went to the set like in the middle of the night when no one was there and did an exorcism.
Oh my God.
To rid it of like bad spirits and that kind of thing. So yeah, so that's where that comes from. Quite fascinating. Although I will say the scariest thing that someone alerted me to this on Twitter was that above Robbie's bed is a weird poster that says Super Bowl 1988, and it's just like a weird like stick figure. I don't even know what the fuck that poster is. It doesn't have like two teams.
Why would
like
you
Rookie of the Year,
a Super Bowl
which isn't even a
poster
thing in the
for
Super Bowl?
5 years in the future.
Right. So this movie came out in 1982, the Super Bowl 1988. Why would you have that? So as it turns out, Heather O'Rourke died in 1988 on the date of that Super Bowl. That Super Bowl, whatever number that was.
But isn't there a props person who could be like, where did we get that?
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
No one's talking about it. It just is there and nobody's saying anything about why. And it's very creepy. So it's just another like, maybe the demons came and put that poster there. I don't know. But it's quite scary. Yeah, so that's the curse.
Yeah. I mean, I love that.
Curse.
I love it to be true. I think that's would be amazing.
What? You
I mean, I don't
like
want
all those people to die?
No, I don't like that, but I like that idea that there's like cursed movie sets and like bad stuff.
Yeah. One other thing that I learned from this movie that I continue to use today is the storm counting trick that Craig T. Nelson teaches Robbie.
I always think of it when there's a thunderstorm.
Whenever there's a storm. So Robbie's scared of the thunderstorm, and Steven teaches him, I think the storm's moving away. And Robbie says, how do you know? And Steven says, well, you count. Every time that the lightning flashes, you count until the thunder happens. And then the next time a flash of lightning happens, you do it again. And if you can count higher and higher each time, that means the storm's moving away. So I would always do that too. And it seemed to be, for me, it always worked that it was always moving away. I never had a Robbie situation where I was counting and then it was like less and less, and then a tree came and ate me.
That didn't work out so well for him.
No.
He probably did not use that trick anymore after.
Probably not.
This didn't work for me so well last time.
Really fucked up. But yeah, that's such a neat little trick. I love that. What else? What do you got?
I think you mentioned those your favorite scene. All when it was happening, you were like, I love this scene. So when Steven goes to the paranormal people for the first time, and it's so brilliantly shot. So I think we mentioned that Tobe Hooper directed this, but it was Steven Spielberg's baby, like pretty much. And he was on set a lot, and I think was in charge of maybe a lot more shots than
so he
was given any credit for.
So the studio wouldn't let him direct this and E.T. at the same time. So he had to find a way to kind of be able to do both. So many people think that he just put Tobe Hooper as the director so that he could say that he
was he like a new
directing
director and hadn't done anything or something?
Yeah, I mean not a ton, but and then many people say, well, Steven Spielberg obviously just still directed this even though he wasn't.
Which I wonder if that was like awful for Tobe Hooper being basically like micromanaged like that. Like that kind of sucks. I mean, the movie is so famous and did so well, so like awesome to have that like director's cred, but like that that must be a hell of a time to have someone like that breathing down your neck, being like, you should do this, you should do this. But maybe they had a good relationship. I don't know. And like, was Steven Spielberg, I'm trying to think, at 82. So he'd already done Raiders. He'd already done Jaws, Close Encounters. Yeah. So he'd done quite a few. Okay.
And I haven't heard any bad stories about Steven Spielberg.
No, I think he's
maybe they're out there. I don't know, but from everything that I've heard, including the guy that peeled his face off, no big deal.
Yeah, no, I think he's great.
He had wonderful things to say, so I think that.
And I'm sure if you are like lucky enough to be tapped by Steven Spielberg to direct something, you are like, God, this is my fucking lucky day. Yeah. Like I'm gonna just take all this and suck it in. Anyway, so there's this great scene where he goes to the paranormal normal people. And this is after like they find out Carol Ann's in the TV, and then it just ends, like end scene. And then they like you're for the first time not, because the whole thing takes place around the neighborhood. So this is like the first scene outside of the neighborhood. And you just see a table with 3 people you don't know. So it's the paranormal researchers. And then you see Steven from the back. And he's like chain smoking. And there's like smoke everywhere. It's just this like...
And his voice is super quiet.
Yeah, quiet and sort of shaky. But you see him from the back. So you don't actually like see what he looks like. And then it comes kind of slowly pans in, and then you see him from the front, and he has like giant bags under his eyes. He's smoking, and his hands kind of like quivering, and he's stumbling, answering, questions about his like kids' ages, and like which is something he obviously knows.
He just seems kind of mental, like he's just spouting off all these things. He's like, I don't care about the disturbances, like the screaming, the laughing, blah 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 blah. I just want my daughter back. It's just such a juxtaposition because over the scene we previously saw him in, he was fine. And I mean, obviously upset because Carol Ann was missing, but he did not look like this in this scene. So you're like, wow. And it was just such a brilliant way of showing that all this crazy shit was happening, and they didn't need to show it on the camera. They just showed it in this one little scene that made you look at the difference between then and now.
And those poor people were living with it. Like they had to sleep there every night with that shit going on.
That's nuts. So
yeah,
we don't know the exact time frame, but we can. I think from that scene, that's why I always think it has to be a week or 2, because. He looks bad.
So that's great. There's a great scene where Carol Ann is like reaching for the TV and like touching the kind of static. That's really cool, and her silhouette is like really awesome. I love that scene where Robbie's like freaking out, and he's like Carol Ann, and the mom's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like what? And then it's just their 2 profiles like in the TV, and they're both dark.
Yeah.
And Robbie has that like crazy overbite with like the beaver teeth.
But it looks like just one tooth.
Yes.
It's so awkward.
It's so snaggletooth. It's crazy. I
Carol
always remember
Ann,
that.
Carol
Ann. And he's like, what? And she's like, and then it's just Carol Ann saying, Mommy, like, and it's just the TV, and it's such a cool,
it's good,
cool scene.
And then my other favorite scene is at the end where Diane needs to go back in after the pool incident and goes back in to save the kids, and she looks down the hallway, and the hallway appears to get super long. And it looks like if you've ever been in a hotel, hopefully you have, the hallways are very long like that.
I always think
so.
of that
That's what it
hotel.
looks like in that scene. So then the music comes on, and then it's just these drums, and it just starts off with her being like, "Oh, it's so far away, I can't make it," and she's kind of like struggling to run. But then it picks up, and this like drum happens, and she just books it like to the door with like her hands. It's so cool. Oh, such a good running scene, such a good scene. I love that. Very powerful. And then, so any other?
I love that part where they're in the closet, and they're trying to get Carol Ann back. So like they're suiting up Diane with the rope, and like they're ready to get her in. And it's sort of this like, I mean, this is very, like we said, they're like this great couple who like obviously this great chemistry, and they just like love each other so much. And there's all these parts in the beginning where they're kind of just like smoking pot and being like, this like couple. You could see how they were before they had kids and everything and responsibilities. And there's this like kind of really romantic part where he's like, they like, right before she goes in, they give this big kiss, right? And he's like, don't. And then she goes in, and she turns around, and she's like, Steven, don't let go. And instead of like a cheesy "I love you," like I'm glad they didn't do that, but it was just like, just don't let go.
Yeah,
and then when she falls through the thing and like comes back out like covered in like the jello, and how much he like freaks out, and he's like, don't go near them, like so like protective of them, and just like they're just this like little family, and like. Oh, I almost started crying.
Yeah, it's really, it's a great scene, great moment. It really sweeps you up and all that. Those like that music again. The music just like swallows you into this emotion. It's a really great scene.
But I do also just one more romantic part of it, as I'm prone to that these days. Yeah. When they're like packing everything up, and like they mouth to each other like outside of the moving van. Like he goes like, I love you, and he mouths it, and she goes, I love you. And it's so sweet.
It's very sweet. And
why don't I have a Craig D. Nelson?
And it's not cheesy.
No,
it's like
not cheesy.
perfect. Yeah, I love it. So my biggest, so I have some things in my life like regrets, right? Where you're like
About this movie or in general?
In general, but this one primarily has to do with this movie. But like another regret I have is like how we didn't buy that Wedge action figure, Star Wars action figure at KB Toys that time. Okay. We saw it and we were like, oh, we should get that. But we were like, oh, $6. I don't know. It's pretty steep.
Hey, we didn't have
back
jobs.
then. I know. But anyways, it's a regret. So in this one, something that always comes back to me is that I just so want to know what the other side looked like when Diane went over there to find Carol Ann. Like, that is my biggest want. I just want to know what it was like.
What do you think it was like?
So I imagine that it is like a composite, like, depiction of their house. So like a negative world.
Okay.
So I think that's
why she can't, like, where are you, mommy?
Right.
Like,
so that's why Carol Ann's like, where are you? I can't find you. So I imagine she's just running around her house and it's empty and nobody's there. So when she tells her to run to the light, is she telling her to run to the closet or to the dining room? It's the way out, right? So it'd be the dining room. So that would mean that once Diane got over to the other side, the living room. Yeah. So Diane like goes into the closet. She comes out on the other side, is attached to the rope, and then runs down the stairs to the dining room, holds Carol Ann. But then they fall through the dining room, so it doesn't make any sense.
Because it's in the ceiling. It's not like it's like on the ground.
It makes no sense. It's like the Full House, which is like you go up one stair and then you come down the other. It's the same every time.
I always thought from my like just me imagining stuff, I just thought it was just like a big room with like all this light in it, and it was just like, actually I guess that would make sense. They're like going towards the light, but I just thought it was like kind of like a white room, and then there was this one door with like all this light in it.
We'll never know. Never know.
Because that part when she's like, there's someone else here like with me, but she doesn't like see him. I got that feeling that like she knew he was there, but like not, or he or she, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I think there's no gender involved in the beast.
Well, they say that the beast is, I don't know if you've ever seen the second one, but there's this terrifying character called Reverend Cain. Yeah. And it's that old man with the scary like Quaker hat that I hate, and he's terrifying. So he's supposed to be like the beast's personified version.
See, well, I feel like that's why where the sequels really like die, because that's why this one was so great, because it kept things so vague. I think you purposely aren't supposed to see any part of the limbo or anything like that. Because
as much as we want to, you can't show it because you can't really.
But just like how we are, that's the fate with life too, right? Like,
you're not meant to see that world. Yeah. Although Diane didn't get to see it, so whatever.
So like, what did she see? We know it turned her hair white, so like really fucked her up.
That's why I'm like, dang, I need to know.
And she doesn't say, she doesn't not remember. Like, Carol Ann didn't remember any of it.
Right, but she doesn't tell us anything. She just says that she feels like she's been asleep a long time and whatever. Ugh, man.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that, and I kind of remember that second sequel with the Reverend guy. I do. Because Zelda's in that one too, right? Yeah. Tangina's in that one too.
And they go to the other side in that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's just the white. Because isn't that what it is?
Yeah, it's pretty dumb.
And then then the third one, the thing I remember is that by that time, Carol Ann was sick and they had her on like steroids and stuff, so her face was really fat. Remember, she was not cute anymore.
No, yeah,
and she was also
they're
older.
In the hotel room, and Tom Skerritt is like her uncle, and
her sister's something involved, and they go into this parking garage, and there's these like holes, and people like fall into the holes. So whenever I'm in a parking garage, I always think of that movie.
I know, me too.
Ugh, so creepy and scary. It's probably not even that scary, is it? Are they scary, those ones?
I mean, there's parts about them that I think are scary just because of my association with them as a child, probably. But no, they're pretty terrible movies. They're not good.
I do want to talk a little bit about Dr. Lesh.
Okay.
Is that it? A little bit more. She's so cool.
Yeah.
So like we said, like she's this great bond with Diane. Really just cool lady, very smart, obviously knows a lot. And I was just doing a little bit of reading about her, and she was really a stage actress, which I feel like really shows up in her acting, because she gives this like amazing speech to Robbie about the spirits and what she thinks is happening. And she was basically like dead on. The psychic Zelda comes in or whatever and like gets a little bit more into detail, but like basically Dr. Lesh like had it. She knew what was up.
Yeah, she did, but she's such a cool lady.
But she's so cool. So she like has this flask and she like has to drink, and she's all like chattering and stuff and like shaking because she sees all this stuff. you know, it's kind of like her world, but this is probably the most it's been real, and is freaking out a little bit. And she's just so cool. I just love her. And she's really involved in the last half. And like, you can tell, I love that part where she like tries to go to Diane as right before she walks into the closet. And Dilda's like, no, like, get back. You have to go like help with the rope and everything.
But she's kind of standing in for us as like we're watching that scene of Diane and Steven kissing in front of the closet. Like her emotion on her face is exactly what we, the audience, are feeling at that moment. So it's quite special.
Yeah. I just love her. She's cool. She's cool in my book.
She's cool, Brad. I always loved the other paranormal guy that
awesome.
stays. His name is
Zach?
His character's name? No. That is not it at all. So the guy who peels his face off is like, fuck this shit, I'm out of here. He leaves. That fucker. Well, he also got bit by the big beast, so whatever.
He had a lot of bad things happen to him, so I don't blame him. Like, that's pretty bad.
Cha.
Ryan.
So Ryan, the other guy, sticks around and he really helps. And I just like, he was always my favorite character, I guess. He's also a great artist. He's drawing this like really pretty picture.
Yeah. And it was like a lady's face. And I'm like, is that what he saw?
Yeah. So, but it was before. He was drawing that before that scene happened.
Okay.
Yeah. So questionable. Is he psychic? I don't know.
But he like nothing seemed to really faze him. He
Yeah,
just
well,
was,
nothing
like,
bad
really-
happened to him. Like I
That's
feel
true.
bad for the guy that peeled his face off because all the bad things happened to him.
Yeah.
So yes.
But because I think like let's remember what they said. Like the beast knows what you're afraid of.
Right. So he was afraid of, I guess, getting food poisoning from
Right.
food or whatever. I don't know.
Bad
maybe
mean and
maybe he
and
had
maggots.
skin complex.
Well,
complex.
Well,
too.
he is another kind of like pockmarked
yeah.
face actor.
Must be something to do with
so
that.
maybe he was a face picker.
Maybe. So here's an interesting question. So Dr. Lesh, when she's explaining these things to Diane, and I love that scene between them, they're speaking in hushed whispers because it's the middle of the night and everybody's sleeping and they're having this conversation in whispers. So you have to listen very closely, but it's a really good scene. But so Dr. Lesh says that when you die, people say there's a brilliant light and it's as bright as you've ever seen, but it doesn't hurt to look at. It's bright as the sun, but it does not hurt to look at it. And they say that all the answers to all the questions you've ever wanted to know are in that light. So I would like to know, what questions would you like answered in that light?
Who built the pyramids?
Cool. That's way better than what I had.
Trying to think of ones.
You don't
that,
think the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids? You think
what
it was
happened
aliens?
to Amelia Earhart?
Okay.
Who killed
probably died.
John F. Kennedy?
Oh, yeah. I put that. Mine are all true crime related. Okay. So it's like I'm pretty
Who was
sure
Jack the Ripper?
You're right. Who's Jack the Ripper? That's one I have. And then John Bonet, who killed her.
Damn.
And then even though I know that OJ probably did it, I would just like to know for certain that yes, he did. That's all I would like to know. Yeah. So that's a fascinating concept.
Yeah.
And is the superpower that I would like to have someday. Selective omniscience, where you just know all the answers, but only to the things that you want to know.
But wouldn't that get boring if you knew all the answers?
You don't
you know
need
what I mean?
to get them all answered. You can choose not to be like, who will be my husband? Will I ever get married? When will I die? You don't need to know that stuff. You're just...
No, but even if it was just general knowledge of things that are in the unknown, I feel like that could get boring.
Maybe.
It's sometimes
I am the kind of person that needs to know everything.
You're telling someone who doesn't see movies and forces people to spoil them for her. You don't think I need to know every detail? Hello.
Let's just say that
preach to the choir.
That the what's that song? I need to know. Yeah. I need, Mark Anthony's
Tell me,
song
baby girl, because I need
basically
to
written
know.
about us. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
I don't
You're
know
right.
why that isn't her personality, but it really is. Who gave it to us?
Who knows?
That's what I want to know. I think we should talk about quickly your everyday lines that you did in that amazing blog post that you did a couple years ago.
Well, I didn't do. So these are ones that you would use in everyday life. So those are a little different from the eccentric,
Depending on who you are.
eccentric ones. So the ones I always say are when Robbie's at the breakfast table with Carol Ann, and they're kind of doing little brother and sister bickering back and forth, and then his glass explodes because the ghosts apparently made it happen, and Diane gets mad at, or Dana gets mad at him because it spills all over her homework, and he goes, it's not my mess. I always say that when something happens or something spills, and I'm always
Such
like,
a weird
it's
thing
not
to
my mess.
say. When it clearly, like,
It
I know
was
he
his
didn't
mess,
do it.
yeah, but it was his milk that spilled, so it's your mess.
But it like the glass like combusted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it wasn't.
the ghost did it.
I think he should have said it wasn't my fault. I think that's feel like what he
Yeah,
meant
that
to
makes
say,
more
and I
sense,
was like,
Robbie.
what?
Way to go. Also, our favorite one that we say is when the guy who peels his face off. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. Now we're back to the cat situation.
He's playing with my thong that is sticking out of my pants. He's really troubling me.
Oh, God. I'll get the blanket.
Stop it.
Bear with us while we edit this out. So
Jerk.
okay. So crisis averted. So our favorite line we always used to say is after the guy who peels his face off goes upstairs when the drums happen or whatever, and then he comes back downstairs and his shirt's all moist, and he's like, "Oh, like something took a bite out of me." And then Robbie goes, "You got bit." I don't know why we love that part so much, but we always say it. And
That
it
went
comes
on
up
for
more than you would
years.
think. Like, why were we saying it
Well, I
so
feel
many
like
times?
it was like bug bite related.
Bug bite
mostly.
or like cat bite or like anything bite. You got bit.
It has to be in like that tone that, Robbie does. You got bit.
And he goes, whoa. And then the other one I still say is at the end when Dana comes back from her hot date with her boyfriend, and she's got hickeys all over her neck and her ponytail's like askew, and she's looking at her house that's all crazy and flashing, and she's like, what's happening? What's happening? So I always say that whenever we see police cars or ambulances flashing somewhere, a police car going by or whatever, that's what I'll say.
I have one more to add to that list. I feel like there was one time, maybe it was like it's like probably when we used to live together and both of our cats would be like doing whatever things, and maybe one of us would be mad at one other person's cat or whatever. And so there's this one part where the beast is Diane realizes like the beast is doing something to Carol Ann or something like that. And she goes, "Bastard, she's just a baby." And like, so we would say that all the time, just sort of like represent the other.
You would be mad at Monkey,
right? Yeah.
So I'd be like, she's just a baby.
And the way she says it, baby, like that is so good.
She has a lot of really good lines, and like, do not go into the light. Don't even look at it. Oh, I love it. Yeah. Or and I love the part where she's talking to her on the TV in front of all the paranormal experts. She's like, "Hi, baby. Like, can you find?" Or like Carolyn's like, "Where are you? Where are you, mommy?" She's like, "We're home, baby. We're home. Can you find me? Can you find a way back to us?"
Yeah. She's so good in that role.
She is. I think she's really something special.
Yeah, I just like love
love
her,
her.
and I just like she's my like role model.
What? Like fashion wise?
Well,
just, like,
and like I think she's
badass.
so pretty.
Yeah.
She's badass.
She's like super
hot
mama bear.
bod.
Yeah.
She's like totally a MILF.
Yeah.
And it's just like I want to be. I mean, she's older than I am now, just by 1 year though, or 2 years. But
Oh,
so
so she was supposed to be how old?
32.
Oh, she could have had Dana then. That's not.
She would have been 16.
No. If Dana's 16, she would have been 20.
No, all right. 15 times 15 is 30. So 16 times 16 is 32.
You could be 16 and have a baby.
Ew.
I don't know, but she calls Dana mom and is like very close
very
to her.
close, yeah.
So I don't know.
I mean, it totally could have happened. It was definitely the 60s or whatever.
Okay. Anything else we're forgetting? I feel like we're forgetting so many things, and I'm upset. Dr. Lesh, all the answers to the questions. Oh, so yeah, sweetie confusion when Tangina is in the closet. She's like,
in the closet?
And then she starts going, cross over, children, and Steven gets all upset. So I always thought that meant that Tangina was betraying them somehow and was doing something bad because of the way that Steven was reacting.
Oh, yeah, we're talking about the mansplaining of
Yes.
Steven.
Yes. So back to the mansplaining. So, yeah. So Steven's very disbelieving that Tangina has this power, even though he's been living in this haunted house for weeks, has witnessed crazy paranormal activity. He, for some reason, does not believe that a clairvoyant person can exist.
Right. And it's like, dude, get all the help you can get. You're basically like you're like drowning here. Get someone to throw you a life raft. And if that person happens to be a psychic, and that kind of fits anyway, I think because she was like small, I think he thought it was like just a con, maybe like the thought of psychics then was like sort of like a con artist kind of a thing where it's like,
I guess.
But she was trusted by the Dr. Lesh.
And I just feel like if you've been in that house, it's one thing if you have not experienced any paranormal activity of any kind.
Right.
And then you're asked to believe a psychic. But he's been living this for weeks. He should be trusted. He'd just be like, yep, I'm on board with this. This crazy shit is happening. Why wouldn't a clairvoyant come and help us? Right. So it's very bizarre that he reacts that way to her. And then at the end, he just thinks that she's betraying them and saying to cross over, even though that has nothing to do with anything. Like, that's not preventing Diane from... the way he says it is like, Diane! Like that's going to ruin her chances of finding Carol Ann and bringing her out.
I don't know why I just don't know why they made him so untrusting of her and... not really like leaving it to the professionals and trying to like, he knows what's best. I mean, I think he was obviously very stressed out during that whole scene, rightfully so. But buddy, like cool it
down.
Like, Diane obviously really believed her, like the doctors do, Dr. Lesh does and everything like that. So it's like, hello. Yeah. It just seemed, and it seemed, I'm not out of character for Steven, but like, I don't know. I just feel like it's weird that they like had him, but I guess like, obviously like, story point because they had to have the beast come for some reason,
right?
So it had to be someone just, like, freaking out
for any plain reason. And I just still cannot believe that Tangina, who is so sensitive to the beast and to all these things, would be like, this house is clean. How can the beast be that good at hiding where he's like, oh, now I don't exist and she thinks I'm gone? I just don't believe it. Like, really? That's all it took. She didn't even do anything to banish the beast. Like, of course he's still there. They didn't do anything to get rid of him.
Right. And I feel like the beast like didn't do, he couldn't take her at the last part.
He tried. Well, he tried.
Right. But like, I feel like they could have reached out the arm and gotten Carol Ann one more time, but they didn't. So I think he was weakened.
What arm?
When the giant vagina opens up and like they try to suck her in,
you're right.
But all it takes is Diane being like, "Hold her hand."
It did take a really long time for that membrane hole to open up because Diane, in that time, flies downstairs, gets stuck in the pool, all that stuff. I would also just like to, what's the opposite of a shout out? Fuck you to the neighbor Ben, who not only in the beginning decided that his kids needing to watch Mr. Rogers is more important than the really important football game that Craig T. Nelson and his friends were watching, but also witnesses crazy flashing lights and screaming from the children's bedroom and does not help Diane, even though he rescues her from the pool. She's like, help me, help my kids. And they just leave her. And they're like, no thanks.
It's number 20 reason why to move from that fucking place. Bad neighbors.
Costa Verde sucks.
Yeah, bad neighbors.
No thanks. Ugh.
Quick book recommendation.
Okay.
If you like reading about alternate theories about the afterlife or people in limbo, there's this great new novel by George Saunders, who's done a lot of like short story. This is his first novel. He does mostly short story writing. Very like prolific short story writer, and he wrote this book that came out this year, or maybe late last year, called Lincoln in the Bardo.
Oh, I didn't know that's what
so
it was
good.
about.
Oh
Cool.
my god, it's amazing.
Why didn't you tell me to read that sooner?
Oh, it's so good.
I thought it was about President Lincoln.
So there's a historical
annoying.
aspect to it. So President Lincoln lost his son Willie from tuberculosis
Not Tad.
when they were living in the White House. No,
Taddy?
Not Tad. And there was reports of kind of like what happened when Willie died and like how Lincoln went and spent time with the body in the crypt. And so he like kind of uses some primary source documents, but also creates this like whole world of other people in limbo in the cemetery and like what happens to them. It is so interesting. He's kind of wacky, so like bear with him if you're not into that kind of stuff. But it's so good. Lincoln in the Bardo, George Saunders.
Ooh, thank you, sweetie. That's an excellent recommendation. Yeah, very exciting.
If you like Limbo, Limbo. I was always really good at just Limbo, the game with the stick.
Well, you're flexible, and I'm not. So
I always win that thing.
well, you were a ballet dancer, so
I know.
happens.
But why
Secret
isn't
talent.
there more Limbo games anymore?
Because it's embarrassing, and people are often wearing dresses and. Ooh, shit! Sorry. Are you okay, Desmond? I'm sorry.
Wow, he's just like really active tonight. I remember earlier today, I was like, he's really calmed down. I think it's because he's older and he's been neutered.
Yeah, you're really
Just kidding.
You really-
It's like he heard me.
You put a curse on this
it's like he heard me
podcast.
and he was like, calm down. I don't think so.
I'll show you. Calm down. Yeah, so quite a few cat incidences, which we'll hopefully edit mostly out. But yes, so anything else? I just feel like I could talk about Poltergeist for hours if I wanted to.
We talked about it for an hour and 12 minutes.
Yeah. I could easily go longer, but I love it so much. But yeah, I guess that's it. Right?
That's it.
That's it. All right. Well, thank you for staying with us through our Poltergeist ramblings. If you'd like to follow us on social media, please follow us on Twitter at The Sweetie Club. And find us on Instagram at Large Marge Sent Us. We're also on Facebook, but who uses Facebook? I don't. Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for listening. We love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.